Hey everybody, want to welcome you to Movers and Shakers, and today I'm blessed with the presence of Lynn Perkins, who is the founder of UrbanSitter.com, and I think we're going to get a lot of fantastic information for you, especially for you, everybody out there that wants to start their own business. So, Lynn, if you wouldn't mind, can you tell us a little bit about Urban Sitter and what it is that you do?
Sure. Urban Sitter is a website and a mobile application that allows parents and sitters to connect. So a parent can say, hey, I'm looking for a sitter on Saturday night from 6 to 10 o'clock. We'll show them all the results of the sitters that are available, and we layer that in with a trust component. So we use Facebook Connect and groups that parents belong to surface sitters that they would feel comfortable using. So they can see that a sitter has worked for a friend of theirs, or maybe it's a babysitter that is friends with a sitter they've used in the past. And the whole idea is that we create a very efficient and trust-driven base that parents can quickly book sitters from.
Wow. So let's just say if I need to earn some extra money and I register as a sitter on the website, so I have an app, or do I get a text message, or how do I get notified when there's a potential job out there?
Well, you as the sitter, so you go in and you update your availability. So number one, sitters love it because they're not going to get job requests for times that they're not available.
Well, let me ask you this: can you give us a little bit of background on what you did before this and sort of how your story comes together to where you are now?
Sure. So this is my third internet company, but most recently I had actually taken a break from starting businesses, and I was working for a boutique hotel company doing development and acquisition. So buying hotels, fixing them and selling them. And I loved it, but after I had kids, I realized that I needed something that offered a little bit more stability in terms of location.
Exactly.
So as I was taking some time off, I decided to start Urban Sitter. And it came about because I saw that many of my friends were in need of babysitters and nannies, and what they felt comfortable doing was looking to resources from other friends to get referrals. And I just realized it was a very outdated process, that seeing how the social network was being used with other businesses, I felt like, hey, who you leave your kids with is one of your biggest trust social network. For something like this made a lot of sense.
Absolutely. So, what were, if any, what were some of the challenges when you have this aha moment and you say, okay, I got it, great idea, I want to start it? What were some of the challenges that you faced from concept to actually getting it out there in reality?
I think the biggest challenge was at first figuring out, I think when you're one person starting a business on your own initially before you find your business partners, or even if you're going to go it alone, is kind of saying, okay, I'm one person, I have limited amount of time, I need to prioritize in order to figure out if this business makes sense. So it was making sure that I did all the right customer research to make sure that other families and sitters would be interested in this product. It was figuring out how to model the business to see if it would make sense financially. And then there comes that point in time where you have all the research behind you and you just have to make that leap and go for it. And I think making sure that you have the right resources in place to help you get it to that next phase, those were kind of the big initial components. And once I had a few co-founders lined up and I had talked to people in the market and realized that this was a good idea, then I was ready to do it.
So it's interesting that you talk about finding co-founders, because one of the things that I find with clients that I talk to, or folks that are interested in starting businesses, is that they get very paranoid and afraid to tell people about their idea, because obviously you think someone is going to steal your idea. Is that something that you dealt with, or that you didn't really care about, or how did you handle that?
I think especially being in the Bay Area where there are so many people looking to do startups, I think it's easy to feel that you need to be protective of your idea. And I think, finding enough people that you can trust with it. And then also recognizing that a lot of people they might like your idea, but it takes a little bit of courage and a lot of guts to just jump out and do it. So I think the perception of potential threat out there is probably higher than the reality of it. So I was pretty open with people, especially because I wanted to get as much feedback as possible before I started it, to make sure that it was an idea that would stick.
Sure. So you said you started a few other internet companies. So this wasn't your go round. Where I know you have competitors out there now, but were there any sites that you were able to model, or did you take some sort of information from that and figure out how you could do it better, or how did that process work in the early days?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, in my analysis, I looked at who is out there today, and there are two big online sites that help parents and nannies connect. And in my mind, their model is much more outdated and didn't really rely on the social networks, which I think is really a key component when you're making decisions about who you're leaving your kids with. You really want to know that somebody that you trust or a group that you trust has met that person before. So that's kind of how I looked at the bigger competitors. And then I looked at all the local agencies that exist in every market. And if you kind of think about the babysitting space the same way the travel space was 15 years ago, you have all these local market by market agencies that have the personal ties with the families, but their business just isn't scalable. So I looked at kind of the local competition and then the online national competition, and then really looked at businesses that were doing things well in other spaces that I thought could transfer to this childcare space.
Wow. So, can you talk a little bit about the financial part of it? Because obviously, if you want to start a business, you've got to raise some money. So, I know that you've done some venture capital raises and things, but did you start sort of funding this out of your own pocket, or how did that work?
I did, and I think one of the things that I'm proud of with this company is that we built a beta product and had some traction behind it in one market before we went and raised money. I think raising money, there's different types of raising money, and I think you have to know your business model well enough to know what type of money is going to be right for you and where the company is going. And for us, it was making the decision to fund it ourselves through our beta phase to see how the product would grow and what the interest would be. That was our strategy with this business. I know not everybody's in a position to fund their business initially on their own. And I think in those cases, taking a realistic look at where your business is going to be in a few years and saying, okay, am I the type of business that needs a small business loan, or do I really want to go get venture funding? You have to take a step back and see where you want the business to be in a few years. And I think that kind of helps you narrow down what kind of funding you're looking for.
And do you have, how do you determine that, one way or the other versus, you want to get a loan versus going the VC route?
I think, each one has its own pressure. So going the loan route, maybe this is something you're going to grow at a slightly slower pace, or it has more unknown variables that you want to work out along the way. Maybe a loan is better for that business. I think in a business like ours, where we were looking to scale it quickly, we knew that it had the opportunity to be quite large. Taking venture capital funds for us was right, but that comes with its own set of pressures. So
Sure.
with that, you have to be pretty confident in your business model, and you have to be able to accelerate it quickly because those investors are looking for a different type of outcome. So I think finding investors that you're, number one, comfortable with, and then number two, that their vision is aligned with yours, and being really clear about what your vision is. What does success look like for your company, and making sure you spell that out to the investors so that they know that what you're aiming to do is aligned with where they would like you to be.
Did you find it difficult, the capital raise sort of part of the business, selling your idea and selling your story? Did you find that difficult, or was it easy?
It can be difficult. I think doing a lot of research up front and finding either investors or partners that have the right alignment with you is important. So I'll give you an example. For UrbanSitter, we made sure that the investors we talked to were in the internet space, not necessarily in one of our competitors, but they had done deals that were growing at a similar pace, had some similar technologies. Having investors that were parents and understood our space was really a great way to save time and get to investors that would, get our product right away. And I think it can be frustrating because, a few minutes into a meeting, you realize that the person just isn't going to see your business vision. And I think you have to be super passionate about what you're doing and be able to not take the rejections personally, but look at it as like, okay, that wasn't a good fit. Better to know that now and move on.
Right. And sort of along those lines as well. Well, let me ask you this: you run a tech company. Are you an engineer? Do you have an engineering background or another technology type of background?
I do not have a technology background. I quickly found two business partners that have expertise in areas that I don't, and I think that would be my advice on starting a business and picking business partners. I found that it works much better to have partners that have skills that aren't clear. The roles and responsibilities can very easily be divided. So I'm really fortunate that I have a wonderful product business partner and a wonderful technology business partner.
Awesome. Now, there's been a lot of talk in the news lately about females in high positions out there in Silicon Valley, and most notably Marissa Mayer from Yahoo. and Sheryl Sandberg from Facebook. And I've had some discussions about these with clients and on TV and otherwise. And do you have any opinions from your experience, being out there and being, running a technology company on some of the things that she suggested with regards to women and leadership and technology?
Well, I think one of the things that I take away from Sheryl Sandberg is this idea that I think maybe women can either be timid or reluctant to back out there. And I think if you're going to start a business and look for funding, you have to be willing to go for it and to feel really passionately and be able to speak strongly about what you're doing. And again, like, don't be afraid of the rejection because you believe so strongly in what you're doing that there's going to be the right partner for you out there. So I think it takes some confidence and a lot of determination. I think with Marissa Mayer and with Sheryl Sandberg, it's tough because it's hard to look at two women's perspectives and say that applies to all women. But I think that they're both out there and they're both trying things in their companies that are risky. Shows you that it's, be willing to take a few risks and be willing to stick your neck out there and know that a lot of people may disagree with you, but hopefully you'll quickly figure out the ones that are going to agree with you and help you get to that next step.
Did you have folks when you were getting ready to start this say, "Oh, I don't know if that's going to work," or somebody's already done that? Were there negative people in your ear at all when you were trying to start this?
Oh, of course. I mean, people would tell us, "I'm never going to find my babysitter on the internet. That's crazy. Why would I look for help on the internet?" Or, "Hey, I already have my 6 favorite sitters. Why would I need your service?" And a lot of those people have come back when they're in a pinch and they need to find a sitter and they've tried us out. But I think part of that too is.
Did you tell those people you told them so?
No, I'm not. I say it into my own head, but I haven't told them that out loud. But I think, figuring out that you're going to have people that disagree with you. And sometimes you get the best feedback from those people. So taking what they say and saying, okay, is there a grain of truth in what they're saying? And do they represent what a lot of other people are thinking? And if so, what can we build into our product to help alleviate that fear? So I think taking their feedback and looking at how it can help you evolve your product, but also to some extent, you're going to get so much feedback when you're starting a business. You also have to be willing to take some of it and just pocket it and stay, you have to stay kind of true to your path to some extent.
Was there anything that you did learn maybe in the beta phase that was different than maybe what you thought about the business heading into it, that where you maybe had to pivot or change something?
Maybe not so much change something, but one thing that we had not anticipated was that as a parent, I may use the site once and find a sitter that I really like. And the next time I come back to the site, I, as one of the co-founders, assumed that parent, if that sitter wasn't available, I assumed that they would want to book a sitter that one of their friends had used. But what it turns out is that if parents have had a really positive experience with a sitter on our site, the next time they go to book a sitter, if he or she isn't available, they want to book that sitter's friend. And because we use Facebook Connect to leverage that information, parents were able to, on our site, quickly find friends of their favorite sitter. And it's something that was built into our product, fortunately, but I don't think we had imagined that would be the path of user behavior that people would choose to take.
Right. So if there are other people out there who are watching this interview and they sort of want to follow in your path, or they've had this idea that's been, burning in their gut for a long time and they just haven't been able to get it out of their head, what are some of the suggestions you would give to a person like that?
I think my suggestions would be, number one, do a lot of market research and run the idea by people. So don't be too afraid to hold it too tight to the vest. I think talk it out, because the more you talk about it, you become comfortable with it. And if you're telling people about it and you're really getting more and more excited as you talk about it, I think that's one sign. I think the other is to take a step back and say, okay, financially, what's it going to take for me to get from point A to point B to my proof point? And then whatever you say that is, if it's going to cost you X amount of money that you're giving up in salary and you're putting into the company, assume it's going to take you twice as long and cost you twice as much, because it usually does. Because I think what you don't want to do is you don't want to find yourself in a situation where you've underestimated the resources that are needed and you start to panic 2/3 of the way there. You really want to be able to have given yourself the right amount of time and the right amount of financial leeway, so that if something does kind of change and you need to pivot, you've bought yourself enough time to make those changes, so that when you get your product or your business or your service out the door, you feel pretty good about the first phase of it.
What do you feel like might be one of the things that's your competitive advantages, and I'll frame it this way. A lot of times I understand it, and I'm even guilty of this as well. That when I started and wanted to become a financial advisor, I focused on, hey, I have this technology background. I know how to run the numbers. I went and got an MBA, and I love the market, so on and so forth. And what I wasn't as in tune with at the beginning was the marketing and sales side of it. That's absolutely critical. If you're going to have clients to do that work, you're going to need to be able to sell them and market to them and so forth. Is there anything like that that you might find has given you an advantage, or something that's been important to your growth thus far?
I think on the growth side, one of the most important things for us has been the ability for our users to share their experience with friends. And part of that's built in through the Facebook Connect piece that we use, but part of it is also reviews and recommendations on our site, and really giving the users that have a positive experience on our site the ability to tell other people about it, which, as we're working really hard on the back end to market this in different markets and doing all the things from the corporate office that we can, really word of mouth growth and sort of viral growth is what you're aiming for. And so I think making sure that you have a way for users of your business or your site, or people who, whether it's a show that people are watching, whatever it is, making sure that the people who are your fans have a way to tell other people about it. You should use them to leverage their positive experience.
Exactly. Do you guys do offline advertising as well as online?
We actually do, because what we found, so on our site, in addition to having the friend network, we also have affiliations on our site. So we found that parents feel very, very strongly about parent groups that they belong to. So it might be Big City Moms in New York or Golden Gate Mothers Group in San Francisco. These groups really carry a lot of power. And so for us, having these offline marketing events where we do sitter parent meet and greets, or we co-sponsor an event that they have, really tightening our relationship with those affiliations that already carry a lot of trust for these parents has been another way that we've been able to get new customers.
So is this something that you eventually want to take to an IPO, or what if you know that at this point, what might be the end game for you?
We don't have an end game specifically, one end game mapped out. I think one of the things that we do is we always keep a chart of what the potential outcomes are, and whether that's grow the business organically on our own and get to a profitability state that we're excited about that may or may not lead to an IPO. That's one outcome. Looking at strategic partners out there that could really leverage their business off of what we've been building. We always keep a few scenarios, and I think no matter how big your business is, kind of having those different end goals mapped out helps you when you realize that you're resource strapped and you can only do so many things. It's good to say, like, okay, which of these things that we're debating between gets us one step closer to our end goal? And having a few different outcome scenarios really helps us determine what we're going to build next with our product, and also, where we want to go down the road.
Right. So just a couple of more questions here, and one I like to ask folks: what motivates you? What gets you up in the morning and get you excited about the day ahead?
It's interesting you asked that, because I actually shared that when we were bringing on the co-founding team. I thought it was really important that we all talk about that up front, because I think what motivates you as a leader of a company, it's important that the people around you understand what your motivation is and that you understand theirs. And so for me, success is looking at our product and seeing that it's helping people and that we're doing a good job of completing these transactions and helping families find sitters. So I gain a lot of satisfaction out of knowing that we're taking an otherwise what could be kind of a complicated problem and bringing solutions to people. I know for other people it might be fame or money or different things, and I think understanding what you and the people around you are motivated by is really important. And that way you can celebrate the successes, because I think when you have a small company, it's easy to get caught up in the list of all the things you still need to do. But I also think it's important to step back and say, yeah, wow, we've had 10,000 families that have successfully found and completed new jobs through us. Like, we should take a step back and feel good about that. Like, for me, finding that our solution is actually helping other people is what I gain a lot of satisfaction out of.
Wow, that's fantastic. So is there anything else that you want to tell the audience about where they can find you, or any new updates coming out?
Well, sure. So we're on UrbanSitter.com, www.urbansitter.com, and we have a blog. So even if you're not looking for a sitter right now, we have a lot of useful information about building businesses, about parenting, other things there. And I'm always open to, I'm very like one thing I would say as an entrepreneur, I think having other entrepreneurs around you that are very candid about their experience, it really helps you. And I think the more that entrepreneurs can offer that kind of support and advice to each other. So as frequently as I can, I love to help people who are a stage or two earlier in the game than we are. I'm still 10 stages behind a lot of companies, but there are people who are just starting off. And I think the more people at different stages can help out each other, that it's better for everybody.
Yeah. Well, Lynn, I just want to say I thank you so much for your time today and for being very candid and honest with us and giving us a peek inside your business. And I really think our viewers, especially our female viewers out there, but everybody, is going to be very inspired by your message, and hopefully they can follow in your footsteps one day.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for inviting me to be on your show. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much. I'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you later. Bye.